The prison lights buzzed overhead as dawn crept slowly across the concrete walls, turning the execution wing into a place that felt colder than night. Inside cell 47 sat Daniel Hayes, a former police K-9 officer once celebrated as a hero. Now he wore an orange jumpsuit and chains around his wrists, waiting for the final hours of his life to pass. Daniel wasn't crying. He wasn't shouting. He simply sat on the edge of the metal bed, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor like a man who had already said goodbye to the world. A guard stopped outside his cell. "Warden's coming," he muttered. Moments later, heavy footsteps echoed down the hall. The warden appeared with a clipboard, followed by a chaplain and a prison psychologist. Procedure. Protocol. The final ritual before the end. "Daniel Hayes," the warden said, voice firm but not cruel. "You have a few hours left. If you have a final request, now is the time." Daniel slowly lifted his head. His eyes looked tired but not afraid. "I want to see my dog," he said quietly. The room fell still. The warden frowned. "Your K-9 partner?" Daniel nodded. "Max. Just for a few minutes." The chaplain blinked in surprise. "Not family? Not a last meal?" Daniel shook his head. "Max was my family." Word spread quickly through the prison. Guards whispered in break rooms. Some thought it was sad. Others thought it was strange that a man convicted of killing a fellow officer would ask to see the very dog who had been with him the night of the crime. But the request was approved. Max, now retired and living with another handler, was located and brought in under supervision. As the morning grew heavier, Daniel was escorted in chains to a small visitation room near the execution chamber. His heart pounded for the first time in years. The door opened. A German shepherd stepped inside. Older, grayer, slower, but still Max. Daniel's breath caught. "Hey buddy," he whispered. But Max didn't run to him. Max froze. And then, low and deep, the dog began to growl. The growl vibrated through the small room, low and uncertain, nothing like the joyful whine Daniel had imagined for years. Chains clinked softly as he shifted forward in his chair. "Max, it's me," Daniel said gently. The dog's ears twitched, but he didn't move closer. Instead, his nose lifted, sniffing the air with sharp, searching breaths. His body was stiff, tail low, eyes locked not on Daniel's face, but somewhere just past his shoulder. The new handler, Officer Reed, tightened his hold on the leash. "Easy Max, easy boy." Daniel's chest tightened. "Why is he acting like that?" Reed frowned. "This isn't aggression. He's alerting." "Alerting to what?" a guard asked. Max took a slow step forward, nose working rapidly. Then he shifted to Daniel's side, sniffing near his left shoulder, right where the prison uniform sagged slightly over an old injury Daniel barely remembered. Suddenly Max barked once. "Sure. Urgent." Everyone jumped. "That's a detection bark," Reed said, eyes widening. "He's found something." Daniel looked confused. "Found what?" "I don't have anything on me." Max barked again, louder this time, then pressed his nose hard against Daniel's shoulder blade. His breathing deepened, almost frantic. The prison psychologist stepped closer. "Dogs trained like him don't react without a reason. He's recognizing a scent tied to trauma." Daniel frowned. "Trauma?" Reed carefully lifted the back of Daniel's shirt collar. There, just below the shoulder, was a small circular scar, faded but deep. The warden leaned in. "That looks like a puncture wound." Daniel blinked. I thought that was from falling during the arrest." Reed shook his head slowly. "Max was trained to identify stabbing victims during suspect searches. He's telling us you were attacked." The words hit Daniel like a jolt of electricity. Images flickered in his mind. A dark warehouse. Rain on metal. A sudden impact. A burning pain in his back. I remember someone behind me," he whispered. Max let out a soft whine and nudged Daniel's hand, his tail giving a small, uncertain wag. He wasn't growling at Daniel. He was trying to tell them something. And whatever Max remembered from that night, it wasn't what the court believed. The room had gone completely silent except for the sound of Max's breathing. Daniel stared at the wall, memories breaking through like glass shattering in his mind. The warehouse. The rain. The shouting. And then, a voice behind him. "You saw too much." Daniel's hand trembled. "Someone grabbed me, from behind," he said slowly. Max was barking but not at me. He was trying to get to someone else. Max suddenly turned away from Daniel and faced the line of correctional officers near the door. His posture changed instantly. Ears forward. Body stiff. A low growl rolled from his chest again, But this time, it wasn't uncertain. It was a warning. Officer Reed followed the dog's stare. "Who was present at Hayes' arrest?" he asked the warden. One of the guards shifted uncomfortably. Officer Larkin, a transport officer who had quietly stood in the corner, took a step back. "This is ridiculous," he muttered. "It was years ago." Max barked, sharp, explosive. Daniel's breath caught. "I remember that voice," he whispered, eyes locking onto Larkin. "You were there that night, before backup arrived." Larkin's face drained of color. "You were disoriented. You shot your partner. Everyone knows that." "No," Daniel said, standing as far as his chains allowed. "I was on the ground. Max was fighting someone. You shouted at me to drop my weapon, but I never fired." Reed stared at Larkin. "Why would the dog alert to you after all this time?" Max lunged forward, leash snapping tight, barking furiously now. The psychologist spoke, voice steady but urgent. "Scent memory connected to violence can last for years in trained dogs. He recognizes him." Larkin's composure cracked. Sweat beaded on his forehead. "You don't have proof. You can't." "I can reopen the case," the warden cut in sharply. "And delay this execution right now." Larkin's shoulders slumped. Silence filled the room. Daniel looked down at Max, tears finally spilling over. "You never forgot," he whispered. Max pressed his head against Daniel's leg, letting out a soft whine, the same sound he used to make after a successful rescue. For the first time since his conviction, hope replaced the weight in Daniel's chest. His last wish hadn't been a goodbye. It had been the beginning of the truth.